Hi, BookTube. Welcome to Jackie's Literary Corner. I am Jackie. And yes, I've cut my hair. I noticed that my hair, people always, I don't know if it was my dad or one of you guys made a comment, but I know someone made a comment about how, it might have been my dad or my friends mentioning, because, they were looking at my channel and noticed how my hair goes from short to long, during certain periods of my videos. But I just don't like dealing with my long hair. I mean, I know there are people that have complimented my long hair and said, "Oh, I wish my hair was as thick as yours." But my hair, first, I cannot manage when my hair is long and thick, and I also, in my opinion at least, I don't like how it looks when it's long and thick because it's just too much. And I know people, and no, I don't expect anyone to be like, "I love your long hair, it's great," because, I just, because that's not going to make me change my mind, or, and I'm not all like, "Oh, my hair's so horrible." I can't manage it. And I'm always going to prefer, and even if people tell me that, "Oh, I love your long hair," I'm going to keep cutting it short like this. That's not going to make me change my mind, because it doesn't change the fact that I cannot manage long hair. Like, yes, I can brush it and put it in a ponytail or whatever, but I just prefer it short. I think it looks better when it's short. And, and now summer, it gets pretty hot here during the summertime. And I know a lot of places it does. But it's easier during the summertime to manage, I would rather have short hair off my neck, so I don't have to, instead of having to have long hair and having to put it up in a ponytail all the time. And then when I get sweaty, even though, my hair is not like curly hair where it gets super frizzy, but it does get a little, it does get a little messy and stuff during the summertime when I have it down. So I put it up in ponytail anyway. And then when I'm like sitting in a chair or something, I can't lean back when I'm putting my hair up in a ponytail, because then it loosens the ponytail. And I don't like the feeling of like knowing there's that lump of my hair being a ponytail. But anyway, so yeah, I just want to. I'm just saying that I literally just cut my hair this morning, so got it cut this morning. But anyway, so I have an update for you guys, and then I have a book haul for you guys, and then I have some I mean, it's technically a book, but it's not a reading book that I gotta show you guys as well. But first, let's update you guys. So I did start reading a little bit of The Guns of August, The Outbreak of World War I. I finally got back to it today. Read a little bit of it today. The Germans are trying to get into Belgium, and, trying to just figure out what is the best way to surprise attack the people of Belgium. Because, of course, they're like, "No, you're not getting in. We're not letting you." And I did, when I was staying with my grandma, I did read, The Bee Sting, but I haven't picked it up since. I've been meaning to. But that might just be an April read. I also meant to mention in my last video that I did decide to DNF The Mill on the Floss. I mean, I read a good chunk of it. I mean, I was on section 3 or 4. Well, actually, no, maybe 5. I think there was 7 sections, and I was on section 5. But I was just getting so depressed with that story, and I'm exaggerating. I know I wasn't depressed, but it's just such a sad story. And I know some of the people whose reviews I follow, and I follow them on BookTube, have said, "Oh, there's a sense of hope in the story," and but it just everything was going downhill with the family in that story. And I was just getting really frustrated how Maggie was being treated by her family, and I just didn't want to read it anymore. It was starting to feel like a chore. Like something I had to, because, I had to read because I didn't want to DNF another book. Although at least now Goodreads, because I'm one of the people who likes that Goodreads now has a DNF shelf, a permanent DNF shelf. And I don't think, I know the criticism that authors have is that, "Oh no, people aren't going to want to read our books if they have a DNF shelf." It's like, well, No, because people DNF, it makes it official now on Goodreads. But people DNF books all the time, and they will acknowledge. I'm one of these people who will acknowledge it. Like, I got the idea on my reviews to write DNF at this percentage from other people who would acknowledge that I DNF this book. So people will write in their reviews. So that's not any different. It's just now it's official and you can see it a little more clearly. But I don't think that's going to stop people from reading those books unless they're someone that trusts, like, if the people that follow me on Goodreads they trust my review so much and they think, oh, you didn't like this, so I'm probably not going to like it either, which I don't think, I think, it could be possible, but there are some people like I watch on BookTube that I think, oh, I'm going to like a book that they love, and then I end up not liking it or just thinking it's okay. And so I don't think there's really, I think I don't think there's really a problem. I think it's good that they have an official DNF shelf so that you don't have to mark it as read. I mean, I know I didn't have to, but I didn't like leaving it blank, leaving it where I was in. It was the book. It looks like the book is in limbo. And now if I don't get too far in the book, then I will, just take it off the shelf altogether. But, like, in this case, I got very far in the book. And finally, I was just like, I was getting annoyed. I mean, there were some bright spots, happy moments here and there for Maggie. And I know it was probably trying to be realistic and have a sense of realism. And I get that. But I did not want to read I wanted to read a book that has more hope. And I also do not think, I mean, like, I feel like she was using, and this is just my opinion, part of me wonders if she was, like, Maggie starts to become more religious, and I'm just wondering if she was only using that as an excuse to, like, hide behind, because it was easier to, like, hide behind her, because she can't, like, she is constantly told by her brother that she can't learn these things because she's a girl, she's too dumb, and she's not allowed to learn, and that's what she wanted to learn these things and read his school books and everything, but he wouldn't let her because, oh, she's a girl, you're a silly little girl, you shouldn't be reading this stuff, you're not smart enough for it. So I think it was easier for her to get into read the Bible, and, like, she could get away with, that would be acceptable by society. I think she was just trying to resign herself and give up. And yeah, maybe that is more realistic. But, in this case, I wanted something with a little more hope. And, I mean, it wasn't a hard read or anything. That's why I was able to read as much as I did. But I was just feeling kind of drained from reading it. It was, I don't know. It was just easier for me to read Middlemarch than this one. So yeah, I meant to mention that last time in my last update video, but I forgot, so. And now the one I made the most progress in is probably, The God of the Woods by Liz Moore. So the first section was in the 70s when Barbara Van Laar disappears. And then the second section is we go back to when Barbara's parents met and got married and everything. And I'm not going to say they fell in love because I feel like their relationship is loveless. Like, I think there was attraction there and maybe affection or, like, but to me there was no love in that marriage. And so we met their mom, Barbara's mom, Alice, in her, when she had Bear, Barbara's brother that went missing. And I cannot stand Peter Van Laar III. I just want to punch him in the face. He is such an ass. And you see that trope of that rich person who, like, in the beginning they're charmed by you, they think you're cute and funny, and then after they've been married to you for a while, then they get annoyed with you because you're not smart. You're not as smart. You are, or you're too smart. Like, you find that Alice's sister Delphine is probably too smart. But with her, she's like, she lets it roll off her back because, she's used to it. While Alice is more sensitive a person. And Alice and Peter are just very interesting psychologically. And I really wish, like, someone that studies or is a psychologist would talk about these books and analyze these relationships like they do with movies and TV shows. Like, I watch Cinema Therapy, or there's another channel who I feel bad, her name escapes me. There's another channel, a psychologist channel that she talks about. I remember she did a series of videos on Arcane and talking about the sister relationship in that, at the root of that story. I would love for someone to talk about the characters in this book, because there's a lot you can really discuss the psychology of them and why they are the way they are. I don't understand what the pink is. I can understand if it was like red, because then it could symbolize blood or something, but it's pink. So I don't really understand what the pink, but maybe there's a reason for the pink there. Maybe the pink represents something, I don't know, but I'm really intrigued. I'm definitely, and it does not have happy moments, but it's a little less slow, and there's a bit of a mystery, while with the mill and the floss, there was no mystery. You knew the family lost all their money and how they lost their money, and they were very frustrated. All the members of that family were very frustrated, and not that I like this family better, but because I don't like the Van Laars. Like, their son Bear, you find out that he was afraid of his grandfather. He did not like his grandfather. And so I'm wondering if that has anything to do with his disappearance. Like, maybe he ran away or something, his grandfather did something to him. But we also have a character, Carl, who at first I thought he was like a sheriff or something. But no, he runs he's the head of their grounds, of the Van Laar grounds. Like, he's a groundskeeper. Which I don't know why I was very confused on who he was at first. And the way the second part ended, I think something's going to happen to him. And that's why in the 70s they have Hewitt is the head groundskeeper. But yeah, I'm really intrigued by this. I'm enjoying it so far. And the mystery of wanting to know what's going to happen with this, what's going to be why. Again, I want to know why the kids have disappeared. Like, what happened to them? Is there some crazy person out in the woods? Did they fall? Or, is there some fantastical thing going on? Or, because, like I said, when I first got this book, my mom, when it said the god that was my mom thought it was going to be like a mythological type story. But I don't know I don't know if God is just a metaphor or something. But we're going to find out at some point. I don't know when, but okay, so I did read again another one that I've read a little bit of is, of course, the Ruin and War. I'm slowly progressing through that. I'm like, as much as I appreciate having Kindle, going back and forth between trying to, because I have my physical books, but then I have, I want to read my Kindle book. So trying to decide when to read which and not neglect the Kindle, so that, it's a hard balance, because I'm thinking, like, when I travel, I want to read, I'll bring my Kindle because it's not as heavy as a physical book, but then it's like, oh, but I'm more into my physical book, and then when I want to read that, make progress on that, and then I read a little, do I read a little bit in bed but then I fall asleep? And actually, I did decide last night I was going to start reading the letters of J.R.R. Tolkien in bed, because they're short, they're brief letters. So I can get a little bit more read without, falling asleep in the middle of my reading. Like, it's enough to read, because a letter is a lot shorter than and also I need to read it. I have hopefully, like, my mom had come into my room because of the printer that, our printer, where everything that goes to be print is on my printer. So they always have to come up. My mom and dad always have to come up here, or have to ask me to get whatever they printed. And she knows all my, the Middle Earth Atlas that I have, and all those, like, coffee table books. And she was like, have you read these yet? And embarrassingly, I tell her no. And it's embarrassing because it's like, I asked for them and I haven't even looked at them. And that was like a year ago. Or, well, a little bit more than a year. Like, less than a year, but still. And so I want to read those types of books as well. Like, just flip through them to at least be like, I have read them. I have looked at them. It wasn't a waste for someone to buy them for me. But I mean, it is coffee table books, so you only look at coffee table books every so often. It's not like you read them like you would read a regular book. Okay, so now let's talk the book haul. What books have I got? First, I will show you. This is the book I got from BJ. We went to BJ's yesterday, and I got a Simone St. James book. So I've read one. I've seen her books before, and I have shown interest in them. Now that I think about it, I don't know if I've read her books before, but I have been intrigued by them and their premises. And now this one I haven't heard as much about, but it involves a psychic, and I guess there's two timelines, because it's the first paragraph on the back starts in 1925 in London, where we mention a medium, Gloria Sutter, and she is, it's not two timelines, that's right. So she is murdered, I think, but she leaves a message from her old rival, Ellie, who I'm kind of looking at the back, who is known for, she can find lost items. But she had the ability to contact the dead. And everyone, all these people are kind of trying to, she's kind of forced to get back into the world of, con artists, hucksters, lowlifes, and fakes. And she has the attentions of this guy, this damaged war veteran, who is determined to debunk psychics. Which I'm guessing he believed a psychic, and then it was proven wrong, and then dire consequences. I'm guessing that's probably his backstory. And they're trying to find out why Gloria was murdered. And I guess, and it says, Ellie is tormented by nightmare visions that herald the grisly murders of those in Gloria's circle. It kind of, reminds me a little bit of The Diviners, the first book. Like, it has a little bit of that similar feel and a similar type of plot. With psychics and she can see dead people, and yeah, it feels very much like it's a very different plot, obviously, but it feels, and it's also set in the in the same era, the 20s, as The Diviners, except for this is in London. The Diviners is in New York, but it reminds me of The Diviners a little bit. I mean, it's a very different story, so this is not me being like, I mean, when I read it, I could always say, oh, this is a read-alike for The Diviners. If you love The Diviners and you want something more adult, read this. Like, it could be the case, I mean, I haven't read it yet, obviously, but it made me think of, but reading the back description made me think of the Diviners with its premise. That's all I'm saying. I still have never finished that series because, like, I started to read book 2 on via Libby, but they didn't have the audiobook there. And I was gonna, but I have this thing where if it's a series, I want to read them all in the same format. So it was like, but I was willing to compromise a little bit, but they did not have the audiobook. My Libby did not have access to the audiobook. So I was kind of annoyed by that, so I never finished it. And now I would feel like I have to re-buy, the first book and reread the first book, which is not a big deal necessarily at this point, but and then get the other ones. I mean, I have thought about getting them on Kindle though, and just reread them there so that I don't have because I know we're kind of trying to promote physical media and getting physical media, but you know what, the Kindle books are more convenient. It's good for travel, and carrying a physical, and especially if you're traveling in a plane, it's easier just that, because you can't, physical books, no, even if it's a paperback, it adds weight. So I can't, so it's just easier. And then I can't even, if I decide to buy a book, like when we went to London, I could only buy 2 books at the most, because physical books add weight, so. But anyway, back to this. So yeah, I'm excited to read this. It was between this one and then there was another one by the author of The Lost Bookshop, Evie Woods. And I thought about buying that one. Not that book, but another book by her. I saw The Lost Violin or something. And it did sound intriguing. I had thought about getting it. But I don't know why. I kept going back and forth, and finally because my mom wanted to go to some other stores, so I finally decided on this one. And yeah, there was probably a little bit of influence of it's $9.49, and that one was $12, $13 to $12, which is still, it's not as cheap as the Outpost Bookshop, but it's still cheap compared to Books A Million. But. And it's not that I wasn't intrigued by this one. And, that wasn't the only reason I decided this one. I do not like being pressured when I have to make a decision. And, what I love about the Outpost is I can buy, 3 books if I want to, and I don't feel like it doesn't make a huge dent in my wallet. But anyway, so that's what I got there. And then, these next. So, like I said, my dad did another the library book fair thing at the community library where he sold a couple of his books. And if you're interested, the first one is Sage Among the Pines, which is a story about a girl who her dad dies. Her dad was a soldier in Iraq, and he dies in a helicopter crash. And her mom, who was mad at her dad because he was, I think he was cheating on her. She left things not in a great place with her husband, and she was drinking and feeling guilty. So she not wanting to tell her daughter that her and her father were having problems, she sends her daughter to live with her grandfather on their ranch. And she spends, her high school, her senior year, I believe, at her grandfather's ranch, growing up, making friends and learning how to ride horses and having these life lessons. And then the other one that my dad wrote, the first book he wrote was Shadows of Saigon, which is about a young man who is remembering he's not young, he's an old man. And he ends up, while he's under anesthesia, he remembers his high school years and then going to the Vietnam War and meeting the love of his life there. And what happens when he's in Vietnam in his relationship with the woman he marries. So please check those books out if you are into historical fiction. But anyway. So the last few years he has been going to the community book fair to sell his books, and he meets other authors like him, and of course he offered to get me some books while he was there, because and I think he asked me last year, and I wasn't interested in who he mentioned. But I have gotten books there for, sadly, only one of the books. There was a couple of the other books did not work out for me. I mean, two of them were okay. I was cool with them. I thought they were I enjoyed them. That was Ashes, Ashes. And then I cannot remember what the other one was called. The first one I read. And I read that one. Actually, that one I got through. I got through within a couple days. And Ashes, Ashes took me a little bit longer. But that one, if you like the show Buffy, you might enjoy Ashes, Ashes. Because it's about this... it's about this young woman who I think they have some kind of powers. Or no, they slay monsters, demons and stuff. And portals are opening and demons are coming out of the world, and I might be getting the plot. I'm sorry, it's been so long since I read it. But it's kind of Buffy meets Shadowhunters a little bit, like the plot is, and I'm just saying they're a little similar, like there are things about the plot that remind me of those books. But anyway, and the shorter one, I kind of liked, that one had to do with werewolves. And it was kind of like a Hallmark, it was almost like a more mature Hallmark movie, like with more mature content, with the werewolves. But anyway, but my dad found an author that I might like this time, and he got me two of that author's books. One of them is The Unbound, The Shifters of the Zodiac, book 1, so it is a series. I think the author came out with the 4th book in the series. The only problem with that is that I can't just get it at Books A Million or hope it's at the Outpost Bookshop. I'll have to get it online. Although the other ones, I think I have seen them on thrift books. So I'm just gonna read the back description. Bodhi and his brothers failed to kill their goddess, and now they're paying the price. A touch curse. With their eldest brother captured and in the claws of their toxic goddess, Bodhi and his younger brother go and search for the secretive witches, hoping they will be able to help defeat the goddess of the Leo shifters. What Bodhi finds is to be much more than he bargained for. His fated mate. Yes, it's fated mate, sorry. I know some people kind of get tired of that, but he can't touch them without activating the curse, so he'll just have to find other ways to show them his love and devotion. But their goddess isn't going to give up her favorite toys without a fight, so Bodhi will fight claw and fang for love. Real, true love. And I think there's a little bit of, I think there will eventually, there might be a little bit of some buttons, like, what's the word, people? Like, sexy times. But yeah, this came with fan art, and I looked at it, and I was kind of, I'm like, I hope I wonder if my dad I hope my dad didn't look at this. Which, I mean, it made it a little weird, but, the artist was really good. However, I don't know if this is the author who did the art, or maybe she had someone else do it. Although I know nowadays people don't trust that, and, they're worried, maybe they let AI do it. But he did meet the author, so I have to ask him if he looked at the art. Like I said, I'm hoping he didn't look at the back. But it just sounded really interesting, and the idea of shifters. Like I said, that other book that I got by an author a couple years ago was also, it was werewolves, so they were kind of shifters, kind of not. I mean, I know werewolves and shifters are a completely different thing, but it was still, I think it's really, I always like the trope of turning into an animal. I always think that's really cool. And I guess the Black Panther goddess is a Black Panther. It like takes the form of a Black Panther sometimes. But anyway. But yeah, I really like this cover. I thought the cover was cool. With the Black Panther and the Panther's gold on it, gold spots. And then the other one was Guardian. And this, again, another one where the cover did get my attention. And it is a standalone, so that was one of the reasons I'm motivated to get this one. And I did wonder if there was some... And, ooh, there is art in this one, too. Oh, and, so... The price for his revenge is a curse. Oh, again, another curse. The yokai's magic exiled him, trapping him in an enchanted forest to suffer immortality alone. The weight of his solitude increased, and his bitterness grew as he realized the only people searching for him weren't coming to help. They only wanted to take Guardian from him, a sword that forged and imbued with magic. So when the little girl showed up in his forest, he feared she was a pawn sent to coax the magic katana from his possession. But she wasn't there for the Guardian. And for the first time, he allowed himself to hope. He should have known better. But yeah, both these plots sounded the most interesting to me of the author's books. This is T.B. Weiss, or Weiss. I don't know if I'm saying the last name right, but T.B. Weiss, or Weiss, is the author. And then, now, okay, before I go, this... What I got the other day along with the book, like, because there were box sets of Agatha Christie's books, and then there were also box sets of Jane Austen's books, because none of my Jane Austen's match. And I started thinking about that none of them match, and I know I don't have to, and I've said in the past, and I don't really care, and deep down I really don't, but sometimes when I see it, I'm like, oh, that looks so good, I wish they were all the same. But partly the reason is I can't decide which edition I would like. But anyway, so I ended up getting a coloring book instead. And this is a Jane Austen coloring book. And so this is scenes from all her novels. And different scenes from each of her works. I always struggle with when to color in the person's skin tone, because I'm like, especially if it's a white person, because do I color them like a light orange color, or oh, wait, who's that? Is that let me go back. I can find, here it is. I wonder who he's from. The equestrian gentleman. I wonder if he's from Lady Susan or something. But anyway, so I'm excited to color this book. Like, I think it's images from all her books. I wish I could draw like this. I love these, but I do not have that artist skill. But so yeah, that is this. Okay, so now let's show what I got today. And I ended up getting 4 books this time. I couldn't narrow it down to 3, like I always try to do. First we have, so I finally bought Wide Sargasso Sea, which is not that long of a book, I guess. This is a spin-off of a character from Jane Eyre, Bertha Antoinette Mason, Rochester's first wife. This is her story. And how she married Rochester, and hopefully, and I'm guessing we'll get her perspective when she's, when Jane comes into the picture and what is going on in her mind at the time. I'd be curious about that. If they do go into that territory, like what she's thinking, and is she really meant in this, is this going to imply that is she really mentally unstable? Is she really, I feel bad saying the word crazy, but I can't think of a better adjective. I can't think of another adjective. And how she ended up in the situation in the first place, because it kind of, obviously it sucks, her situation. But I'm excited to read this. I kept, and there is the original person who owned this book wrote in pencil, realism, bewildered, believable story, plausible story, characters resemble people in real life. Jane Eyre, modernism, make the novel more real. Elusive, fragmented contradictions, unconscious effects, behavior/actions makes more compassionate. Oh shoot. Okay, the screen disappeared on me, so hopefully I won't have to refilm this, and it won't matter what I'm saying right now. But yeah, I'm excited to read. I like that. I like when you see evidence of the original owner, the previous owner, in the book, like little notes, annotations, whether even if you don't think the same way they do. But yeah, it'd be fun to read this, and then maybe I can read Jane Eyre right after it. Okay, and then we have. So I have another book by this author, which is about Matilda, I believe. It is about Matilda, the first woman who tried to be Queen of England, but then she couldn't. Her cousin wouldn't let her. Her cousin Stephen would not let her, so she ended up, eventually, she could only get it through her son. Her son became king. But this is a novel of Eleanor of Aquitaine. As soon as I saw that, I was like, ooh, grabbing that. That's definitely gonna get it. Okay, the woman, the legend, the beginning. At the age of 13, Eleanor of Aquitaine is forced to leave everything she knows behind, marry a man she doesn't love, and take the throne to reign as the Queen of France. Eleanor's new life is full of risk and unlimited opportunity. Barely out of childhood, faced with great scandals, fraught relationships, and forbidden love at every turn, Eleanor must use all her cunning to secure her future as one of the most powerful women in the world. Scandal, politics, sex, triumphs, and tragedies abound in The Summer Queen, the first novel in a stunning trilogy by international best-selling author Elizabeth Chadwick, and of course it's part of a trilogy. So I have to look into that. I mean, it would be convenient if the other book I bought by Elizabeth Chadwick was connected to this. Let me look something. Because they often, if it's a book in a series, there's often a map of England here in France. Okay, no, it doesn't say there. Let me look at the back. Sometimes they list. Nope, of course not. Okay. I'll have to look into this on Goodreads when I'm done filming. Okay, and then we have the Conquistadora, a novel, Esmeralda Santiago. Author of When I Was Puerto Rican. So as soon as I saw that this was an author of, because actually I was thinking about, when I was there, thinking about how I want to read some more Own Voices books, if I come across them, and used bookstore is, I think, a good place to look. But Of course, Arya's bookstore is limited to the people who live in this community. But as soon as I saw, like, this... Okay, so... As a young girl growing up in Spain, Ana Lara Goitu Copulas is powerfully drawn to Puerto Rico by the diaries of her ancestor who traveled there with Ponce de Leon and the handsome twin brothers Ramon and Incente. Both in love with Anna, she finds a way to get there. Marrying Ramon at the young age of 18, she travels across the ocean to the Hacienda Los Galmos, a remote sugar plantation the brothers have inherited on the island. But soon the Civil War erupts in the United States, and Anna finds her livelihood, and perhaps even her life, threatened by the war, people on whose backs her wealth has been built. The Hacienda slaves, whose richly drawn stories unfold alongside her own in this epic novel of love, discovery, and adventure. So that sounded really interesting, and it's a version that I'm not familiar with, a part of the world that I don't know a lot about, so I thought I would try that. And then, so this one I got really excited to see. And I meant to look and see look at the name of the person who recommended this book. But this is Paris 1919. I was so excited. I audibly gasped as soon as I saw this in the nonfiction section of the store. And I was like, oh, I'm buying this. Because it is on my list both on my Amazon wish list, possibly, and on my Thrift Books wish list. Now I can take it off because I finally bought it myself. So I was so excited. This was Jen Jelinski or Javinsky. I still don't know. I see her name, but I don't remember. As soon as I need to mention her channel, I don't remember how to say it. But this was one of the books she recommended for World War I content, for books to read for World War I. And so I immediately put it on my want to read list on Goodreads and on Storygraph, and I was like, so I saw it today. I was like, I have to get it. Because if I got anywhere else, it would cost just a little bit more money. So I was like, let me read, let me read the description. For 6 months in 1919, after the end of the war to end all wars, the Big Three, President Woodrow Wilson, British Prime Minister David Lloyd George, which every time, so the rest is history. They mentioned Lloyd George, and I was like, who the heck is that? Because I was thinking they were saying something different. I mean, he sounded like it sounded like for some reason it made me think of a rock star name, like a British rock star name. So, but then I realized that he was the prime minister during the World War I. In French, Premier Georges Clemenceau met in Paris to shape a lasting peace in this landmark work of narrative history. Margaret Macmillan gives a dramatic and intimate view of those fateful days which saw new political entities, Iraq, Yugoslavia, and Palestine among them, born out of the ruins of bankrupt empires and the borders of the modern world redrawn. But I'm wondering if that's who these three guys are. But yeah, I was so excited to see this at the bookstore because, like I said, it was one of the ones I wanted to get eventually. So I was very happy to see. And it's paperback, because sometimes what will happen is I'll see a hardback version of a book that I've been wanting to get, and I try to avoid getting the hardbacks because they cost a little bit more. I mean, it's only $5, but still, and that means I have to limit to myself how many books I can get. And then, and then also, it's not always comfortable reading a hardback book. I mean, I do have a hardback of the third book in the Six Tudor Queens by Alison Weir, but I'm gonna read it anyway. It's not a super long book, so. And this would probably be a thick boy. So I was very excited to see this there as a recommendation. I mean, as one of the books that was recommended for World War II knowledge. But anyway, so that is my book haul and how my update on my reading for you guys. I hope your reading is going well. Have you recently gotten any books, whether it's from the library? I keep thinking about going back to the library, but there never seems to be a good opportunity, because I know once I go to the library, I'm going to be prioritizing the library book so I can get it finished so I can return it without having to renew it. And I know I can, like I said, I'm aware that I can renew it, but it gives me anxiety. So, because I'm putting it, like, I feel like, oh, I have to finish this book so I don't have to, because, you know, and... but I would like to go back, especially because I've seen evidence that they're working on the new library that's going to be bigger. So hopefully that means more books in the library. But anyway, but yeah, if you borrowed any books from the library, I would love to hear about those. If you've been listening to audiobooks lately. Oh, and speaking of, as far as shows go outside of reading, I did watch Zootopia 1 and 2 yesterday, and I enjoyed them. They were fun. They were very fun and very cute stories. And they do have good messages about friendship and not being prejudiced, and just using the predator prey scenario with because they're animals. And I know a lot of people ship the two main characters, Nick and Judy, and I mean, if it happens, I'm not going to be like, how dare they? But I know people are starved for that. They want Disney to have a romance again. They want Disney to have like romance, because they just stopped doing it because they were like afraid to do it now. And I'm all for that too, but I'm still like, why do they have to be a couple? And people do want them together as a couple, a romantic couple. I'm like, why? But I think I might be the only one who doesn't want them together. But it's like, why do we automatically have to guys and girls, in a movie, even if it doesn't work out, even if it's not that way in real life? I mean, I'm not attracted to every guy that I'm friends with. So, why do they have to like ship them together just because a guy and girl are friends in a story, But anyway, I mean, I know it's also motivated by the fact they want to see romance in Disney again, like a great romantic love story. But I just wanted to mention that to you, as far as non-reading things. And I hope you are enjoying your reading, and again, share what you're currently reading, please, and I will talk to you later. All right, bye!